All right, so what we want to do is go to the customers data set. Now it happens to be the third worksheet over, so you could just notice that it's the third sheet over if you remember, or I mean, if you notice, or if you remember, we can right click over here and see all of them in alphabetical order and go to customers. So in this particular example of subsetting, what we're going to do is assume that the client has asked us some questions and is only interested in some of this data. The client, this data is from an organic food superstore, and it's data on customers in 2017 and 2018. So it's a little bit old, but it's still it's not super old. And again, it's real data. So this client wants to focus on certain types of data. So certain conditions like the college educated millennials born between 1982 and 2000. And she's only going to care about certain variables, she thinks, for her interest on analyzing this. So in order to create a subset of this data set, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make the top row look like variables. So just a little visually easier. And then I'm going to freeze that top row because I noticed that my data set extends past one monitor. Right. The other thing that we're going to want to do when we make a subset is we're going to take advantage of Excel's filter feature, which is very powerful. Notice that the filter is on top of the words on a bunch of these, and it makes them hard to read. So the first thing I'm going to do is highlight row 1, go to the Home tab, and choose Left Justified. So at least I can see them a little bit better. Okay. So now let's go through and filter out rows. So the first thing what we do when we filter out rows is we use these filters. The first thing, bless you, the first thing we want to do is go to college. And she's only interested in college educated. So we're going to use the filter and get rid of the no. Okay. And then she's interested in those born between 1982 and 2000. So to do that, we're going to go to this birth date, and we're going to go down to date filters and go to between. In this between pop-up, we're going to go with January 1st, 1982, and up to, and the way I'm reading is she wants people born between 1982 and 2000. I'm thinking the date for 2000 is 12/31/1999. But do you agree or disagree? Is that how you interpret it too? It's kind of fuzzy, right? It's not super clear. But I'm going to go with 12/31/1999. Okay. So I set that up, and now my data set's a little bit smaller. And you always want to kind of scroll a little and make sure that it did what you thought it was, what you intended it to do. So that looks right. The next thing is she only cares about certain variables. So before I start deleting variables out of this, I'm going to make a copy of it because you don't actually want to delete data. All right. And we want to work with this data set. So I'm going to come up here to A1 and click on that. Then I'm coming over to the very bottom of my data set down here at N201. And this is my, there's fewer observations visible, but they're all actually in there. That's, again, why I need to make a copy of it. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to right click and hit Insert a worksheet. And down here, let's rename this like client customers or something. So we know, you know, it's what this client wanted. Right. Now I want to be able to read everything. So I'm going to click column A, come over here to column N, hit shift click. So I've got all of them. And then on the Home tab under the cell group under Format, I'm going to go to Auto Fit column width. So that makes everything visible to me so I can see it all. Okay. Then I go back and I read more about what is this agreement and what is she asking? And she says she only cares about sex. So she doesn't care about the customer ID. So I'm going to click A and right click and hit delete. She doesn't care about race or birth date. So to pick more of them, I'm going to use Control, or if you're in a Mac, Command, and you can pick more columns at a time. Now, birth date, we already used it to filter things down, so we don't need it anymore. She doesn't care about it. I mean, I would care about it, but she doesn't. So we're going to click that one as well. And then I can right click and delete both of these. She does care about household size. She doesn't care about zip code. So we can delete that one. She does care about income. And she doesn't care about spending in 2017, so we can delete that one. She cares about spending in 2018. Total orders in the past 24 months. And these two columns she doesn't care about. So I'm going to select both those columns, right click and delete. Okay. So now we've created a trimmed down. So we've reduced not only the columns, but we also had reduced the rows. Okay, so now this is more of a data set that is specific to what this client's requests or is interested in analyzing. Okay, so now let's go back over to the whole customers. And here are, so we don't really need to filter anything. We want to use all our data. So I'm going to first of all clear the filters. So there's a couple ways to clear the filters. I can just click the filter tab and get rid of them, or I can hit this little clear. It has a little funnel with an X, a red X, and I can clear them that way. But I'm going to also get rid of them because I don't really need filter right now. I'm going to use all this data. All right, so let's do the percent change between the spending on 2017 and 2018. So we're going to create a new variable in our data set. So over here in column K, I'm going to right click and hit insert. And you can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it the percent change. All right, whoops. All right. So now I'm going to build my formula in the first cell and make sure it looks right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say equals. And you can try it. There's the formula up there. See if you know how to input that into Excel as a math formula. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. So when I went ahead and when I put that in, I made sure that I subtracted the 2017 from the 2018. So I did 2018 minus 2017. You flip that around, you're not really getting the percent change. All right, so that part's important. And then we're going to divide by the 2017. Okay, so notice up here the function has red cells and blue kind of shading to help us kind of check our formulas. So it looks right? Everyone good with that? Okay. Now, when I look at it, I'm like, well, I don't really like looking at numbers like that. They're not really very pleasing to the eye. So I'm going to go back over to the home screen and change this to a percent. So now it's negative 16%. Right, now I want to copy that formula down. There's nothing in this formula that needs to be an absolute reference. So it's totally okay keeping everything as a relative reference and just copying it down.
What was the formula you put in that box?
It's up here. See it up here?
Oh, just 12 minus 12 divided by 12.
Yeah, it's not 12, it's I2. So it's J2 minus I2 divided by I2. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and click this little green box and copy that formula down. All right, so now we see the percent change. Okay, let's talk about the next transformation. I can get this thing to there we go. All right, so let's look at income. And this is the kind of exploratory data analysis that you may want to consider doing on your data when you get it from your client. I'm going to look at income, and I want to just see how it's distributed. What does that look like? So I've clicked on it, and I'm going to go up here to insert, and then I'm going to go to recommended charts. And under recommended charts, the third one down is a histogram. So I'll say okay, and it's going to pop it right there on top of my data. And I don't really want it just plopped right in front of my data. So I'm going to remove it from there by hitting Control X or Command X and come over here. And let's just put it here. All right, so let's make sure we put in the title. If this is income, okay. Notice how it has a right tail. It's positively skewed because there's a bunch of data up here on the higher end of income. And that's not really looking very normally distributed. All right, so now let's go back, and when you see something like that, you'd be like, oh, I can't really analyze income in some of my mathematical models, especially when we do regression analysis, which is, I keep telling you guys, is so powerful. We really need to kind of get this more normally distributed. So one of our really powerful kind of first attempts is to take the log. So let's go and add another variable in here. So I'm coming over to I, and I'm going to right click, insert. So I got a little space now, and I'm going to call this the log of income. So ln of income. All right. And I'm just going to go ahead and say equals ln. And that function popped up. I'm going to choose income, close the parenthesis, and hit enter. Okay. All right. So go ahead and get the natural log of income for all your data. All right. And now let's go ahead and create a histogram of this now. So go ahead and see if you can remember how to do it. Trying to see if histogram just pops up as an option here, but it's not really. So once again, let's go move it underneath where the other one is. So make sure you're comfortable with moving your stuff around. Where'd it go? Oh, it's not where we want. It's not where I thought it was. Okay, let's put this one here. Let's go grab the other one that's down. I left it down here. All right, so this one is the natural log of income. Okay, so you can see now that our natural log transform data is way, way, way more normally distributed, right? And now, if you were going to try to do any kind of analysis involving income, I would highly recommend you do it on the log of income, and then we would back transfer that back out at the very end. But you would be working with this variable instead, because it's more normally distributed. Any questions on that? Okay, so to determine the age of this customer, let's come over to birth date. And we're going to find the age of the customers to January 1st, 2019. We're going to assume, since this data is a little old, that we don't want to know their age now. We want to know their age when they were doing these shopping patterns. So I'm going to add a column here. And I'm going to call this new variable age January 1, 2019. Okay. Now, in order to determine that age, I'm going to first of all find out the difference in time between January 1st, 2019 and their birthday. Okay, so to get that, I'm going to say year frac, and the start date is when they were born. And then the date now, we're going to put it in quotes, 1/1/2019, close quotes. And when we get this weird number, February 1st, 1900. The reason we got that is because we have this column formatted wrong. So I'm going to check. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to format this whole thing, not as a, if we click just on that cell, you'll see that it's formatted as a date. But we want this whole thing formatted as a number. Okay. So now we see that this person was 32.04 years old. Okay. Let me just send a few more down because I want to make a point here. Let's look at the second person. They're 25.64. So how old are they if you ask them? If you ask this person on January, how old were you January 1st, 2019? Well, how old would they tell you? They would say 25, right? Because usually you don't record your age until you hit your birthday. Like, I don't think you go around going, well, I'm 20 and 0.67, so I'm actually going to tell you I'm 21. Try that at a bar. They're going to be like, sorry, can't round up. So, you know, what we need here then is to just cut off the decimals. Yes.
Could you just repeat that one more time? The formula.
This one up here?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's year frac, start date, I hit the birth date, and then I use a double quote. I use the quote with 2 quotes, and I put in the date, 1/1/2019. Okay?
I count as fractions.
So check what you have for your format on your column. Is it number? Go up here to the home tab.
Got it.
Is that it?
Yeah. Thank you.
That's usually what makes these look wrong. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to make all of, actually, I'm not going to do it yet. Okay. So obviously we only want the 32. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the results of this and we're going to wrap it. We're going to wrap it as the input to this function integer. So we're going to give the output of this to the function integer to just cut off the decimals. All right, so that's what I'm going to do now. This is sometimes how you build a more complex function. In Excel, you start out with something that you know makes sense to you, and then you kind of, add the complexity. So let's go in here now. Up here in this formula bar, I'm going to type INT and tab, and it gives me that opening parentheses, and then I got to go to the end of this and hit that closing parentheses. So notice now it says 32.00. What's wrong with that? This person was not 32.00. That's kind of like a lie, right? So I don't want to put this 0.00 because it implies they were exactly 32. So I want to get rid of those decimals by using that decimal reduction button. All right, now that I got them down to 32, now I can double click this. Whoops, let me go here. And now I can get everybody's age, okay? Now I can do all kinds of cool exploratory analysis with their age. I can look to see if there's a relationship with people who spend less or more depending on their age. I can look to see, I don't know, like, do we have younger shoppers tend to be male or do they tend to be female? Like, there's a lot of kind of questions that using age that we've created now, this variable can help us. All right, let's talk about another one. Okay, so now we're going to create a season in which they were born. So I'm going to come over here next to age, and I'm going to add another column. And I'm going to, first of all, I want to determine the month in which they were born. So month born. And this is sort of an intermediate variable. I can actually, once I build my formula, do what I'm getting ready to show you all in one cell formula. It's kind of like, starts to get, kind of long and complicated. So I'm going to do it in 2 columns. That's not a bad idea. Sometimes it keeps you from making errors, especially if you're kind of learning how to do it. So let's start out with the month born. So this one's a fairly easy date function that Excel has called month. So we're just going to go month, and we're going to go to birth date, and we're going to hit enter, and it's going to tell us 12. And you can just see it's pulling the month off of this birth. It's pulling the month off of that date. But I want you to know that it's kind of pulling it off regardless of the format, because I could go up here to date and I could format this like this, or maybe like this. Let's see. Let's say I format that as 16th of December, 1986. And I want to copy this formatting down. And I like that, you know, I want to do this whole column of data in that format. It's still going to be able to pull the month out as a number. Okay. So now that I have the month, I want to now assign a season to those months. So to do that, we're going to create a lookup table. Create that lookup table, I'm going to add another worksheet by right-clicking down here on the name of the worksheet and saying insert worksheet. And let me call this customer lookups, because we might do more of these when we start talking about binning data. All right. So let's start out with, we'll call this season of birth. Maybe the owner of this store has this weird idea that what season you're born in impacts what kind of customer you are. I don't know, something weird. But so let's go with, we're going to start out with, we'll start out with month, and then we're going to have the season. And we're going to, because we're doing this index match requires the lower number in the range with option 1. And this is just a little note. So basically what we're going to be doing with index match is we're imagining, if you will, that you have all the months of the year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And we want to group certain numbers and associate them with certain days of the year, I mean, different seasons. And so we want to use the lowest number in the grouping to be, it's what index match is going to use. There's an option called 1. So let's say we want to stop here and we're going to call this winter. All right. And let's say we go, March to here, and we'll call this spring. I'm kind of making this up, but this is what's in my head anyway. Then we have 2 months of summer because we live in New England. But like, let's say we wanted to do summer and, you know, go up to September 21st, and we'll call that summer. And would you argue that March is still winter up here? Yeah, March is still winter. We got spring and we got summer. And the only problem I have with this is I kind of think fall. I don't know, when this is fall, do you consider December really fall? I don't know. All right, we're just going to call this one. We'll keep it simple. All right. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to use this index match function that Excel has, and index match will say, if you give me a number for the month, as long as the number that I'm matching it up to is less than, I'm going to give you this label. So we're going to go with the lowest number in each one of these kind of buckets. So these are the numbers that we need to put in our lookup table, or the lower number of that range. So in here, we're going to come over here and we're going to say month 1 is going to be winter. Month 4 is where spring starts. Month 7 is where summer starts. And month 10 is where fall starts. All right, so that's our little lookup table. We have to set that up. Now we come back over to customers, and I'm going to add another column. I'm going to create another variable. I'm going to call it season of birth. Not births, sorry, I mistyped. Season of birth, and again, I'm going to use my little wrap text so that it all fits in there. And now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, okay, I want to look up. So this is where I use index. I want to pull out one of those seasons. So the first thing I'm going to put is what the first thing that goes into the index function. The first entry is what you want as an output. Where is the output coming from? So the output's coming from these seasons. I want it to be winter, spring, summer, or fall. And I'm put a comma. And now, if I give it the number 3, it's going to give me summer. If I give it the number 2, it'll give me spring. So I want a number. And the way I'm going to give it a number is I'm going to use something called match. And match is going to return a position in an item as it matches a specified value in a specified order. So that sounds like impossible to understand. So let me just explain to you how it works. I'm going to match the month. So the month that they were born was F2. F2, and I'm going to match that number with one of these month numbers here. And I'm going to give it the option 1, and 1 is less than. So as long as the number that I'm trying to match is less than, as long as the number in this list is less than the number I'm trying to match, it's going to give me that season. So I'm going to put it 1. If I wanted an exact match, I would put a 0. And greater than is a little less intuitive, but let's just go with 1 and zeros for now. All right, so I put that in and I see that this person who was born in December, their season of birth is the fall, and I look at my intention for this worked, right? Now, I would like to copy this down, but you have to really watch this because this is a very common error. I want to copy it down, but anything that goes to that lookup table has to have absolute references because I don't want those to change. So I'm going to come in and hit function F4 and put $signs in front of those. And over here where it's also in the lookup, I'm hitting, oops, I got to get it just right. I'm going to put absolute references there as well. Okay. Now that gives me fall. And now I'm going to copy that down 1. I usually just copy it down 1 just to see if it works. Okay, so this person was born in May and it's telling me spring, and I want to just make sure it's going 3 to 6, 3 to 6. And I'll go to my customer lookup, and that is 3 to 6 are the rows. Okay, everything looks good. So now I can double click this and get the seasons of birth for every one of these customers. Okay, so that's how we did that. And I'm going to upload this video so you'll have this step by step, but generally this is a technique that you will be using in other instances.